Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air, and the truth with Terrance Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The truth with Terrance Ruth.
Welcome to the show. Now, it's been a while. Well, at least it feels like it has been a while. We had the 4th of July holiday where in Raleigh, the rain canceled that whole celebration. the rain canceled that whole celebration. But I just, it seemed like so much has happened since I was here with you on the show. And we start with the debate. Debate was probably the most significant event to happen. Now, prior to that debate between the president, Trump, and Biden, the country was talking about the court cases that Trump was in. As soon as you had this debate, it felt like all the attention went to the conditions or the selections we have in November. But underneath that, underneath the rumblings of what we have in November, people were focusing on Biden's age, not his production as a president, because he actually has a pretty impressive resume for what he's been able to do for the country. But his age has become center stage for the last 2 to 3 weeks. And that has really rocked the country. And so the question that we have around that is, number one, why are Americans so concerned around the debate? Now, this is a question that we've been trying to explore. And again, I want your conversation. So please call in if you have any questions at 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210, or 252-937-7400. But people have been focused on, in particular, the cognitive and physical health of Biden. And the debate really reignited this long-standing concern about Biden's cognitive and physical health. Now, mind you, if you watch that debate, there were long pauses. Now, what people see and perceive holds more weight than even factual truth. So a medical doctor just said he has a clean bill of health, but this has seemed to override that whole narrative. And so the focus really was on will he survive or be able to lead with a level of sharp cognitive awareness. And so voters have lost some confidence in his ability to be effective. The second thing is electability concerns. People have been concerned about his numbers with Trump. It's about tied right now in national polls, for those of you who still believe that polls are telling us the right thing. But there's been electability concerns. There's been some rumblings in the Democratic Party around, can the president survive an election against Trump? Now, with this rumbling, you started to hear people really say, why are we talking about Biden's health when Trump has said some outrageous things, both in the past and in his most latest campaign stomp? So the question has been, why are we talking about his health when Biden is still leading with good policy? And so we have to go to the perception. Biden's debate performance have really hurt people's perception, even if it's factual or not. The perception of it has been impacted. But also connected to that is the media coverage. The media coverage have been intense. If you've turned on your TV, late night shows, the news, morning news, even little funny videos on YouTube, a lot of them have been about the presidents, both Trump and Biden. But in particular, when they talked about Biden, it was about his health. And so with all that attention on Biden's health, people have also been bringing up this thing called Project 2025. Now, Project 2025 is a document that was created by a conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation. They've been around for some time. The Heritage Foundation is not a new entity. It's been around for a long time. It always creates an annual report. Usually it creates a report during election time that they can give to the incoming conservative-leaning presidential nominee walking into the White House. It's a slate of policies that they are encouraging their president to put in place. So Project 2025 is a part of a series of reports that's usually given to an incoming conservative president. And then there are think tanks on the left side that do the same thing. So Project 2025, however, has raised alarms in people's brains. We've never had a candidate like Trump before, where the institution that holds the trust of democracy is optional, or the institution that makes sure that there's accountability within each branch is optional. So you have a presidential candidate in Trump, which we've never seen before, that have made these institutional controls that's supposed to keep us from losing our organized lives. It has become optional for this candidate. And so Project 2025 is leaning into the lane of a president that don't see those controls as necessary, or creating new controls that give more power to the executive branch being the president. Now, for those of you who remember George W. Bush, okay, he was once the most hated president of all time, literally. Like, he literally left office as the most hated president of all time. He left because people rebelled against his consolidation of power when he was trying to respond to 9/11, if y'all remember. Trump is even beyond that element. That's why people are raising alarms about Project 2025. If you listen to what Trump actually says, which we now have the luxury of having all of his speeches recorded, and he loves to be in front of a mic. In one of his speeches, he said, "I will be a dictator for a day." Now, if you know history at all, dictators normally don't give up their power once they have that day. Normally, when that day comes, they keep it. Okay, I want to hear your voice. If you have any questions, 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. So this Project 2025 is resting on a candidate of that nature. That's what makes it even more eye-opening. Now, Project 2025, you can Google it. You can go to the Heritage Foundation. It's a long document, but you're encouraged to read it. Read the whole thing. You can even find YouTube pages that summarize it for you, for those of you who don't read, like don't want to read or don't have an appetite to read or would rather not read. Go and Google it, and you will be able to either find video summaries, because it's a very long document of each section, or you can download it right onto your computer as a PDF. Now, for those of you who are serious and you need a book in your hand, you can actually purchase it. But Project 2025 is a set of policy recommendations fully vetted by a combination of people. What is scaring many of the people on the left is that some of those individuals used to be in Trump's office when he was the president last time. Also, you have scholars who have been researching policy in each particular area for many years. You also have think tanks who have made their contributions. So I'm trying to give you the background to this Project 2025. It is worth viewing and listening to. You might say, why? Why do I have to go and look at this document? Number one, the policy recommendations will shock you. Almost a guarantee. Right? It will shock you. But number two, most of the policy outcomes, you may be the person on the chopping block. So if you know anything about conservative government, they want to shrink government. So even for those of you who support Trump, and we have a very high white poor population in North Carolina. Matter of fact, that's the largest group of poverty. White poverty is the largest block of poverty in raw numbers. I'm not talking about percentages. Usually when people talk about percentages, they talk about black poverty, and yes, we do have a higher percentage. But if you're talking about raw numbers, there are more white poor people in North Carolina than there are black. and many of those individuals are receiving government assistance. Of that government assistance, when you're voting for somebody that will reduce the size of government, that means they're going to reduce the size of your assistance. And so the document is worth reading because it actually may impact your quality of life. And so I say that to say the document is thought through with a political framework that says that we need to shrink government and move power out of government into other fields. Now, when we get back from this break, I want to tell you why resting this policy on this type of candidate should bring some alarm to your life. All right, so I see you on the other side of this break. Please call 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. See you on the other side.
Every time I step in a booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air in The Truth with Terrance Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The Truth with Terrance Ruth.
All right, welcome back again. We're on Project 2025, and what type of candidate would actually take that policy recommendation? And that's Donald Trump. Now, if you want to call in, I would love to hear your voice, 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210, or 252-937-7400. Now, we talked about the origins of this Project 2025, which is the Heritage Foundation. Please go look them up. Please go download this document, Project 2025. Now, the policy recommendations is going to sit on a presidential candidate that many who were part of his cabinet prior says that he doesn't read. So if this is the policy recommendation that he's going to bring into office, theoretically, he recently said that he did not, he said he did not create the document. He don't know what it says, and but he said he approves of what they say. Now, if you didn't see the document, Project 2025, how can you approve of what it says? That's what most people have been saying. But if you're talking about a president that doesn't read, or at least that's what those who have worked closest to him have said, then everything in this document may be moved into law as it is written. And so that's why I'm telling you about the type of candidate, the type of human being that will take on this policy recommendation. Now, what are the highlights and focus areas of this Project 2025? That should be your question. Why would you want to talk about this on the radio? Okay, that should be the question you have. All right. So the first one is restoring family values. Restoring family values. Now, you notice the word restoring. If somebody tells you that you're restoring something, then you should ask to what? to what are we restoring? We could go to, Juneteenth, when families had to find each other because they were sold apart in slavery. So we could go there. I don't want to restore that, okay? So if we're talking about restoring the family, the question should be to what? All right, so this is some of the highlights. It's a roughly 9 to 800 page document. So I'm only giving you the highlights. I am only giving you the billboard. It's your job to do the homework, okay? All right? So again, please call in 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. So the very first thing is restoring family value. They want to promote traditional family structures and values. So you see the word traditional. Again, it should to ask you, what tradition are you talking about? So they want to focus on heterosexual marriage and parental rights. Again, they want to restore that structure. Now, if we're in a democracy, and the democracy should represent people, what are people saying right now? So I just brought up the poll. I'm just going to read to you what the poll is saying about what people desire right now. So this is about a democracy, what people see and feel. It says the rise in support from same-sex marriages over the past decade is among the largest changes in opinion on any policy issue over that same period. People are vastly shifting their minds on what a traditional marriage should be. and you have a policy document saying that we are going to challenge that change in opinion. Again, democracy should be a representation of what people feel, think of their country and how they should live. Democracy is a representation. If we're representing the shift in people's view on marriage, then why would we restore what is not popular at the moment? I'm only giving you the polls. I'm not even giving you my opinion. You can go to the polls yourself. I'm only giving you the polls. The second thing, this Restoring Family Values also oppose policies that support LGBTQ rights and reproductive rights, including abortion. That has been the narrative of this whole year, so that shouldn't surprise anyone in that document. But what most people don't hear is the restoring of the traditional family structures. So if you don't know, the divorce rate has skyrocketed in our country. So we're seeing that traditional family structure, we're seeing it ripped apart at a 50% rate. 50% of families are divorcing in our country. So that traditional marriage structure is being challenged just by the rate of divorce. But you don't see that in this document. You see a particular look at the LGBTQ community, at reproductive rights and abortion. So I just want to land that there, okay? The next highlight in this 900-page is dismantling administrative state. Dismantling the administrative state. Now, I mentioned this right before the break. Majority of poverty in our state and also the country is white residents, white North Carolinians. The highest receiver of federal assistance are white citizens. The brand of poverty rests on black single mothers, but the actual numbers actually rest on white poverty. Here, they want to dismantle the administrative state, which means they're going to reduce the size and power of federal agencies, which may potentially impact the assistance you receive. You depend on that assistance. The assistance came during a time when we were in the Great Depression, many of those programs. The Great Depression means a lot of poverty was in our country. And so we're in a hard economic moment at this time. Homelessness is on the rise. Default loans are on the rise. The one thing you do not want to do is reduce the federal assistance for those, especially those who need it the most. The second is transfer more governance to states and local agencies, local entities. It's transfer more governance to state and local entities. Now, if you remember back to the Civil Rights Movement, JFK had to send troops to states, to cities, because they did not want to follow the law, the federal law to integrate schools. So if we reduce the governance of the federal government, you can have states violating national law and tying the hands of the federal government to intervene. Now, the last was to purge federal workforce and replace them with aligned conservatives. Purge means to remove and replace, okay? You want to remove and replace people who are in the workforce. Now, again, I need you to think for 1 second, how are they going to do that? How are they going to find the people who are not conservatives in the federal workforce? And then how are they going to replace them? Is it a witch hunt? Is it a survey? They actually give you the details in the document. That's the homework that you got to do, okay? Please download Project 2025, read it yourself, okay? The very last thing, not last thing, the third thing is national sovereignty and security. National sovereignty and security. Again, I want to hear your voice, 919-872-9210. 919-872-9210. This is Project 2025, and we're resting this on a presidential candidate that said that he wants to be a dictator for a day. I don't even care if he was playing. We're resting this policy on top of that. So, sovereign border security and enforce immigration laws. sovereign border security and enforce immigration laws. Again, if you think back to when Trump was president, ICE was a big issue at the time. Also, even in his campaign, probably the number one thing he is campaigning on is immigration. Believe it or not, we have immigrants in our communities. Because they haven't been politicized in our state, you don't notice any change to your health, your safety, or your community. The moment you politicize this community, you begin to make them an other. You begin to make them a dangerous bunch in people's eyes. You change the perception of the immigrant population. So here, you're talking about strengthening the border security and enforcing immigration laws. If you rewind, Trump campaigned on the wall. I have a PhD in policy. The policy question way before Trump was ever thinking about president was about the Southern Wall. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a complicated policy issue, and it's expensive. In order to do that, you have to grow the government. But in this document, they tell you that they want to shrink the government. If you build a wall, you have to grow it, and it's a lot of money. So again, I just want you to go and read the document yourself. The second thing is to protect national security from foreign influence and threats. Protect national resources from foreign influences and threats. That is the purpose of government. So your question should be, what are they saying about it in the Project 2025 document? Why would they put that in there if that's the whole purpose of government? That should be your question when you read that document. There's a reason why every news syndicate is talking about Project 2025. They're encouraging you to read it, or at least get the Cliff Notes. Y'all don't remember I'm old. Y'all probably don't remember the Cliff Notes, okay? I'm old. We used to have Cliff Notes. Now y'all watch YouTube, whatever y'all watch, to get a summary. But go and make sure you review this document. The next thing, prioritize American interests in foreign policy. How Biden sees the world is totally different than how Trump sees the world. How Biden sees the world is totally different than how Trump sees the world. When Trump was president, our historic traditional partners was afraid that they weren't going to receive the support of the American government when invaders was coming in particular Russia. They were feeling as if America wasn't going to be behind them when they went or was invaded by a foreign country. How the world sees Trump is totally different than how the world sees Biden. And I can promise you the majority of the world will want Biden. So in Project 2025, make sure you read why would they use this language to prioritize American interests? In one lane, Trump was saying if NATO, if you don't pay your fees, then you're not going to have the security of the United States. And believe it or not, the United States need the world. So again, I want to hear your voice, 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. And the very last thing, we're going to individual rights. Before we get to individual rights, I want to take a break, but when we come back, we're just going through the high level, the details of the document. I want you to, once we go over these highlights, I want you to go and download this document. Project 2025 is nothing to play with. There's a reason why it's all over the news. So when we get back from this break, we're going to dig a little deeper into what the document is telling us and what we should be listening to. And as a conservative president, how would that change our lives? See you on the other side of this break.
Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air in The Truth with Terrance Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The Truth with Terrance Ruth.
Now, I want to, before we go through the other elements, because again, every time I'm with y'all, I run out of time. Y'all got me running out of time, y'all. I want to first talk about why would somebody be concerned about this project? I mean, we were going through the details, but I want to zoom out just a little bit. This is what I want you to listen for as you read that document. It has authoritarian overtones. So I want you to listen for authoritarian undertones. Like critics, they're arguing that this project's agenda, when it dismantles administrative state and enforce strict conservative policies, how is that going to thrive when the popular opinion may have a different appetite for the way culture should go? So will it undermine the democratic institutions and centralize power? Like, is the goal of the project to centralize power and make you live a certain way? That's one concern. The authoritarian undertones is or overtones is what's scaring people. When you centralize power, when you get rid of portions of the government and you are demanding, even making legal certain ways of life that is leaning towards one way, then people may feel forced to live that way. So that's one. The next concern is about civil rights and liberties. That's the next concern, civil rights and liberty. The project stands on issues like LGBTQ, rights, abortion, immigration. Is seen as a regressive, like almost like we're going back in time. And it could lead to some rollbacks on civil rights legislation. So what we've seen in our lifetime is affirmative action. We've seen affirmative action, something that we thought would just never go away. We've seen affirmative action pretty much exit stage right. So civil rights and liberties is one major concern that I have personally heard from people myself. And again, listen to the polls of the everyday resident in our country and then read the Project 2025. It looks like popular opinion is going in one way and Project 2025 is going in the other direction. And this is supposed to be a representative democracy. Now, the next one is environmental. We haven't even touched environmental and regulatory rollbacks, but you're talking about plans to reduce environmental regulations and prioritize energy independence could harm environmental protections and public health. This was a concern when Trump became president last time. He put somebody over the department that really watches over environmental controls. And people were scared. They were really scared and concerned about that selection of human beings. And so that's one thing that you're going to see in Project 25 that people are telling you to look out for. What will be rolled back in terms of environmental protections? Again, public opinion is going in one way. Project 2025 looks like it's going in another. The next one is just the impact on federal workforce. We employ, and I say we, the government, both local, state, federal, employ quite a few human beings. So the project is supposed to purge the federal workforce. Now, I don't know if you've ever been a part of a purge. A purge is almost like a witch hunt. We're going to find the people. So that means you can't say certain things. You're going to feel like you can't talk to certain people. I don't know. Again, it could potentially produce a hostile work environment where you can't even say or think or feel a certain way because you then will lose your job because you're not either sounding conservative enough or leaning conservative enough or showing enough support or refusing to implement certain conservative policies. So that word purge is not a normal word, okay, that you would see in a policy document like this, okay? Purge the federal workforce and replace it with ideologically aligned individuals could politicize the civil service and disrupt government operations. Listen, everyone. We have been in a democracy that have allowed for our votes to have some weight in how we experience government. In the last year or two, we have witnessed where people are opting out of democracy. I've already presented the stats on this show before. People are opting out of democracy. They're opting out of both parties. The fastest growing party is the non-affiliate, the independent. That's what's happening right now. And when you start to politicize the federal workforce, now you're talking about a swing that will impact how people even think about the government. It's already on the ground. The perception of government is already on the ground, according to polls. An act like this may prevent people from even responding to GOTV efforts, which means get out to vote efforts. It may prevent people from even wanting to vote. We are already in a time where voter activation, voter excitement, voter engagement is on the ground. People don't care. And when you start implementing restrictive lifestyles based on a conservative policy recommendation, you may lose a significant voter bloc that will not even engage in the voting process. This is not a game. This document has been written, reviewed, proofread, edited, put online for everyone to see. It's not hidden. It's not a secret document in a case locked up somewhere. It's literally in your face. Literally in your face. Call me, 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210. Now, what I'm hinting to here is the last concern that people are having, is the potential for increased division. In a democracy, it requires that two different views negotiate to produce a policy that's best for everybody. That's why you have checks and balances. Our governmental structure wasn't designed for one party. It was designed for multiple parties to have separate interests and to have to negotiate with each other to produce a better policy so that the greater good could benefit from the policy. That's how democracy was formed. So that there's not a kingdom. America was fleeing from a kingdom. We're not trying to produce a kingdom. We're actually trying to have different views negotiate on what's the best way forward for the entire country. When you put something like this in place, it creates further division to where we're not even negotiating on a policy that's going to benefit the whole country. Now we're moving closer and closer to a kingdom. We don't want to be in a kingdom. We left the kingdom. That's why democracy was formed in America. Please read this document. This document is in your face. Project 2025. And whatever you do, do not sit home on November 5th. I don't even want you to wait to that time. Early vote, okay? There's no lines. Early vote. There's some companies that are allowing you to leave work and come back without any punitive damages to go and vote. Do not sit out on this one. Your vote matters. Even if you don't vote, that's a vote. If you don't vote, that's a vote. And that may hurt you, your quality of life. Project 2025, please check out the document. Learn your presidential candidates, learn your gubernatorial candidates, learn your state reps, House, Senate, learn your superintendent race. Mo Green, please read your websites. And then most importantly, look up your local government. Your mayor, your city council, your county commissioners, they matter. The reason why we're talking about a Project 2025, because they were already meeting at the local governments years ago. They were already in the school board meeting years ago. So again, I'm gonna leave you with this one. I gave you the billboard, you do the homework. Go read Project 2025, Google it, check it out. Please reach out to me. Any questions you have, reach out to me on drterranceruth.com or in Choice FM here. Please, Truth with Terrance Ruth. Any questions you have, I will answer. Whatever you do, don't go into the polls blind. Read the document, know what you're doing, know your president, know who you are voting for. This is the Truth with Terrance Ruth. Thank you again for having me. Again, I'm just trying to open up your eyes. I want us all to see. All right, see you the next time. See you next week.